Okay.
I'll talk to, yes.
All right. Okay. I'm talking to Vicki Wilde here from Wellington. Thanks for talking to me today. It'd be great to hear a little bit of your story about how you got into reflexology.
Great. Thanks for the opportunity. So, my first experience of reflexology, because I didn't really know anything about it until back in the late 80s, I think, early 90s. I had a car accident, no actually it was early 80s, 1982, and I had a car accident, got a head injury and things like that, and was unconscious for several days and had a leg injury. But the point was that when I went home from hospital, my sister, who had just come back from an overseas OE, you know, she had learned to do some reflexology, and so she decided she would treat my head injury through my feet. I thought this was a bit wacky, and so I had my feet up and sitting in a lazy boy chair, and she hurt me like blazes, pressing my big toe, and I thought she was just being mean. And I said, that's too hard, and she said, look, this is what I'm doing, and she just pressed my thumb and demonstrated that she wasn't pressing very hard at all. And that then, in hindsight, that became a measure of effectiveness for me, of seeing shift. So she continued to treat my feet, my head, for over a week, every day. And each day that progressively got easier, and I progressively got a bit clearer in my mind, and was a little less forgetful. So that's my touchstone for reflexology, which is quite special for me, because I think everything around reflexology for me resonates out of what have I experienced, and how does this feel to receive, and how might it feel for the person receiving when I'm being the reflexologist. So that's kind of like the locus around which my reflexology practice operates, I think.
So can I just interrupt there?
Sure.
Your sister, where did she learn her reflexology skills from?
She went on a retreat. She was a nanny for a family who took her to the Bahamas when they went on a family holiday, and they were at a retreat where there were workshops and courses and yoga and all sorts of things, and she was participating in that when she wasn't looking after the kids. And so I don't know how long she was learning, or the extent of it, but for me she'd learned enough to know treat the head and the toes, and she probably learned lots more than that, but for me, around my experience, that was the kind of key bit, and it made a difference.
Okay, all right, well, thanks for sharing that. And so how many people have influenced your reflexology path?
Quite a few people. The person that I first heard about reflexology in Wellington, this is years later, in the 90s, mid-90s, and I heard that there was this woman, Emma Fromings, who was doing reflexology, had reflexology clients and stuff, and so I thought, oh wow, I think I'll try that. And I think at that point when I first went to her, she was working out of her home in Te Bay, and so I travelled out there and met her and had a reflexology treatment. I thought, oh my gosh, she's just amazing, and a really lovely, bubbly person and all of that as well. So she was a nice person to visit and to experience, kind of transporting kind of experience, really. That's what I had, and having reflexology. And so having had treatments for quite a few times, I became sort of a regular client, hooked. And then she mentioned that she was going to be doing a weekend workshop, and I thought, I think I'll do that. So, you know, Ray, my friend Ray, and I both thought we'd go and do the course, the weekend course. And I was probably only the second day of that, and I thought, oh, I want to learn more. So from there, went on and did that 12-month course that she was teaching. And I think we were the second group, the second intake of reflexology students that she'd taken. So it was quite new. And she'd trained in the UK. And I think probably, well, to my knowledge, she was the only reflexologist practicing in Wellington at that time. It wasn't really that common. And I thought, gosh, I've had such a great experience. I want to share it, family, friends, or whatever. And then thought, I really want to be able to offer this too for other people because it was so powerful. So that was Emma. Other people along the way, I think just the people, the other students and the graduates from the previous year in Wellington were pretty inspiring because they were all doing reflexology in their own way, and they were all pretty passionate. I think that passion for it is quite it's quite an attractive kind of energy. And I mean, to this day, even preparing to talk to you about this today, I'm thinking, I still don't really understand how it works. And at the time, I really wanted to understand how it works. And at some point, I suspended that need to understand it. And I don't know whether that's okay. I don't really know whether I'm okay with that. Because I like to understand, be able to feel confident in it, in whatever it is. So I just come back all the time to what have I experienced, and is that real? And I think it's absolutely real. So, and I can experience the power of it without understanding how it did that. So I know the connection between the feet reflexes and the organs and the systems and functions. I know that to be true, and it works. And so other people would be able to explain how it works probably in a more articulate way, but I don't at the moment feel like I need to chase that so much, but just sort of have an experiential faith.
Fair enough.
Sort of experience. I don't know. It sounds probably a bit fluffy, but so other people, Walter Hartman took us because I became part of the local group and things like that, and then we had a committee and those sorts of less exciting things really about reflexology. I think Walter Hartman, who was our chairperson at the time, he had the idea that we would have the first conference for the new Reflexology New Zealand group. I know it was a Reflexology group association prior to that, but this was the new breed, I think, of the organisation. And I just remember when he suggested this, I thought, what? This went from kind of weekend get-togethers and workshops and sharing and stuff like that Emma had been doing as a more an opportunity to learn and get together and all that kind of stuff, and maybe sometimes have people coming in. But this was taking it to a whole new level, and I think I wasn't ready for that. I wasn't sure that we were ready for it as a organisation either. However, Wellington landed or took on that first responsibility for because it came from our chairperson. And we sort of shifted another gear at that point as an organisation, and I still quite like the less formal kind of approach that and ways of learning and things like that, or workshop kind of environments and things. And that's not to decry the need to learn and share and bring in expertise, and because we've had some amazing reflexologists from overseas teaching and sharing their knowledge and stuff. One of those people was Sue Ehinger from Australia. She came out to, I think, one of the conferences in Hawke's Bay, and Ray and I were thinking about we want to put a bit more depth in our practice and be a bit more rigorous. It's not a surprise, that kind of stuff, and we thought, well, maybe we'll see whether Sue Ehinger is open to us going and doing some learning from her. And she was, and we went and we spent, I don't know, it was about a week or something, and stayed, so we had about 4 or 5 days of learning her methodology and that kind of stuff. And so that was quite a bold thing to do, and sort of another way of investing really in my practice. I'm not sure, in truth, I'm not sure that I may have made the best use of that investment. And yeah, however, it was one of those inspired thoughts at the time and actions we took. Who are the people? Moss Arnold had come out here. Emma had brought Moss Arnold out, and he was just like a firecracker, really. And do you know him?
Yes,
yes. In the reflexology context, because he's just such a live, bubbly energy, and so confident, and all that kind of stuff. And he was talking about chi reflexology, which is all quite new, and I didn't have that much of a footing in Chinese medicine or that kind of stuff. And this felt like a bit of a, he'd created this from his knowledge and aspiration, I think, for reflex, or to create a mode of reflexology that resonated for what he believed in and things. And he was very inspiring in that way. And he was very energizing in his teaching. So kind of, so I have used some of his chi reflexology methods and stuff. Again, I think I probably haven't done his system and his work justice in what I do, but I feel a little bit like a magpie. You learn bits and you bring it into your practice if it fits and where it fits and things, and that's kind of okay, and I'm not certain whether it's adequate. As a practice. Maybe everybody does that in their own way in all fields. I mean, I know I do an evaluation and stuff. Who else is there? I find Xanthi Ashton incredibly inspiring. Like when she first came here, she was also UK trained, and so she came and joined the association, and she took on all sorts of roles and things. But what I find amazing about her is that she just quietly gets on and keeps growing her practice, working with horses, doing cranial reflexology, and there's lots of aspects to what she does in her practice, and I find her very quietly very inspiring. She knows an awful lot, very clever woman. And our own Tess Thurkelson, bless her cotton socks, and she's passed. But she was pretty neat in that she shared her hand reflexology with everybody and did that for nothing. And she was also very, I don't want to say inspiring so much as that she was, she gave a lot from her own knowledge and practice, and that was quite neat. And now I can't remember the woman's name, Cheryl Waters, I can't remember her name, Cheryl Waters, who came here and she did Tai Chi with us, yes. And she also taught us vertical reflexology techniques and I don't know who her teacher is, that's a bit embarrassing, but Cheryl was the person that I learned from, and that was up in
Lynn Booth?
Yeah, I'm not sure,
yes.
Actually. Might be.
Yeah.
I haven't met her though. I've only learned the vertical through Cheryl.
Yes.
And so I found that really interesting, and I've been playing around with the vertical reflexology stuff in my practice quite a lot, kind of using that in linking methods and various things, and I really like it. Last year I was doing some work on somebody who had a physical injury in a foot and things, and I started to do specifically doing vertical reflexology, and I started to write down, to create some language for what I was feeling when I was palpating and feeling the pulses and stuff like that. And I developed my own little shorthand for what was happening and trying to track patterns and stuff. And I just felt so excited about it. So I want to be learning more all the time about how do I register when something's having an impact on the person, in addition to whatever they say. But if they're kind of not talking at the time because they're asleep, then it's quite good to have the foot communication or giving some feedback and to recognise what that is. Have you got another question?
Yes, like you have been involved at council level for quite a few years with various roles, so you would have seen the impact of reflexology grow in New Zealand.
Yeah.
What sort of roles did you take on, and how did you get into them?
Well, I started off, Ray and I had lots of ideas and things like that around the education sort of portfolio area and things. I'm not sure I think we shared the role or something. I'm not really sure, early days. and I was kind of on the committee. I think that was my role with Ray. And at the time I thought that the idea of having recognition for reflexology in a formal way, so Emma had been doing the training and stuff, and we got a certificate for that, but it's like, well, how do you start to think about standardising good practice and what that might look like and things. And that took us aspirationally kind of quite well ahead of where practice was and where people were ready. And it's a bit like my experience when Walter said, well, let's do a conference. I think, I don't think we're ready. And I think as an organisation and nationally we were quite ready for that. But maybe that's the whole thing about growth, is that, you're usually stepping into something or towards something that you're not yet ready for because it's a growing experience. And I think at the time there were a lot of people in really different places about what they thought was important and where the priorities were, and I don't know that we had such fertile ground with where we were wanting to go at that time.
Yes.
And that was a bit painful because when you get excited about something, you can see possibilities, and that's not a shared thing. You can't just go on and do it anyway because it's